Hi and welcome back to the channel. It's been about 5 or 6 weeks since I last uploaded a video, which wasn't the plan, but family health issues and a personal injury to my eye, which came about through doing some grinding and cutting of metal, even though I was wearing safety glasses and a protective visor. So that's healed up now after about 10 days. So although it doesn't sound as though I've made much progress, I have, and that is what I'm going to be covering in this video. There'll be 4 items I'm going to cover, one of which I might leave till the next video, or rather than make this video too long. So in this video we're going to be looking at the access grommet, which is fairly simple. Even though I've zinc primed the inside of the chassis rail, I want to inject some rust preventer and rust protection. So that's why I've got an access hole there. Secondly, we're going to be having a look at a very simple thing, which is the radiator support bracket, which is a very simple thing to manufacture. And then we're going to have a look at the bumper iron support bracket, which I'm part way through fabricating, so we'll be having a look at that. As you can't get new ones, and the old one is rather the worse for wear, as you can see. And next up is the manufacture of the anti-roll bar bracket, which, as you can see, and I think I showed this in a previous video, is rusty and wasn't doing what it should be. So I'm part way through manufacturing a replacement for that. Now, this is probably going to be the next video. So what I want to ask you is whether you'd like me to show you a more in-depth fabrication of that part. I'm not experienced in doing this sort of work, so I'm just doing what seems right. So if you'd like to see a more in-depth video, please let me know in the comments below. So here it is. Now, although I thought long and hard about whether to actually drill an access hole into the side of the chassis rail, the fact that I've replaced, or what did I say, seven separate little panels, I suppose you'd call them, to repair it, and I actually put some zinc primer in to give it some added rust protection. I decided to actually put in an access hole. As you can see there, there's a rubber grommet in it at the moment, so take that off. Now I was going to drill a slightly bigger hole than that, but I didn't think it was necessary, as you can get the spray for, here we go, the wax oil, Genelite wax oil spray, and that prevents rust from setting in. So it's got double protection at the moment. So I suppose periodically, every couple of years or so, you could remove the grommet and spray some more in. So I don't know what you think about this idea. A few people have commented that they'd thought about doing it as well. That grommet won't go in now again, but I'll put it in later. Yeah, a few people have commented that they'd thought about doing it before, but I don't think they have. But I decided it was a good idea. But there again, we all make our own choices. And also this hole will be accessible when I actually fit the bumper iron support bracket and weld it into the proper position, as you can see there. So, yep, that is the first job that I completed on the. So the next thing I manufactured was a replacement radiator support bracket, as you can see there. We'll have a closer look at the opposite side now. But it was a pretty simple section to make. It's just a cut out piece of 3mm steel, drilled 2 holes, one either side there, and then used a die grinder to join the 2 up to make a slot. As you can see on the offside, that is where that support bracket goes. So if we look at the opposite side, this will go just about there. I'll get the position right. I have scribed lines on it where it should go, but I will be welding this on after I've put the bumper support bracket on there. If we have a look at the old one, which is there, okay, it's deformed, as you can see. I've decided to make a new one rather than take this off and put the old one back on, so it's easier to do that, to be honest. As you can see, the inside hasn't got any, that I can see, rust protection on it, and okay, yeah, it's corroded from the outside in probably, but you know, there's no harm in giving it, as I've done, a coat of zinc primer or protection, and also, as I said earlier on, I'll be giving it a coat of wax oil as well. Okay, so let's get on to probably the most interesting part of this video, and that is the manufacture or fabrication of a new bumper iron support bracket. Now, I touched on this at the beginning of the video and showed you the state of this one, and also the fact that they certainly aren't available new as far as I'm aware. And if you wanted to find one of these, you'd probably have to get it cut off an old chassis, and it's likely to be in a similar condition as that one, or at least very rusty. So let's move on to what tools I actually used to make this bracket. And I haven't got a metal brake, which would make it far easier, but even so, you'd need quite a substantial one to bend 3mm steel plate or sheet. So what I used was an angle grinder with a 1mm cutting disc. I used both electric hand drill and a pedestal drill. I also used a hole saw. I used files, a welder, various measuring instruments and squares, and I think that's about it. So what I'll do now is I'll zoom in onto this and then go through how I actually manufactured it. Whenever I'm doing jobs like this, and I haven't done many fabrication parts, as I've said earlier in the video, perhaps more than once, but I like to break things down as simply as possible, and you can do that really well with this particular part, because it's essentially a flat rectangle of steel, 3mm thick, with 2 bends in it at 90 degrees, a hole in the middle, and 2 holes for the to fix the captive nut at the back. And it's a 3/8 BSF 1-inch long bolt, and it's got spring washers and flat washers to hold it in place. Of course, you've got to make sure you get your measurements right and get the bends in the right place. Okay, you can argue that you've got a little bit of latitude with this, but it's best to get it as accurate as you can from the start. Now, when it comes to the bends, the fact that I haven't got a metal brake, and you'd need a substantial one to actually put the bends into this metal, I decided to use the cutter groove into it, and then it makes it so much easier to bend. And then you need to fill in the gap that's left to strengthen it up. After I'd cut the groove, I used my vise and a couple of grips to actually bend it, and then continually check that it's come out at 90 degrees, which these are. Okay, so once we've bent the 90-degree sides, then I drilled 2 holes here, first with pilot holes, then the expanded hole to take behind there. As you can see, the captive nuts, or welded on nuts. Not particularly good welds, but they're solid nevertheless. Then I decided to drill the 6 centimetre hole with a hole saw. Now that made me think as to why would you want a hole in there, and it reminded me of Colin Chapman and his mantra of adding lightness to a car. I don't think that would really apply to a Rover, would you? But if you've any ideas why it's there, yeah, let me know. I'd be interested to hear your opinion on that. So next comes the welding of the seams here and here. I haven't actually welded that one up yet. As you can see, this side. Now, I was really worried that once I started welding across the seam to give it strength, it had actually start to deform or go out of 90 degrees one way or the other. So what I did was I've put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spot welds, and every spot weld I applied, I waited until it had cooled down a little bit, then welded the next one. And I constantly checked it for the fact that it was still 90 degrees and it didn't move an inch. So what I'm going to do is carry on spot welding all along, allowing it to cool a little bit, check again, and go from there until it's fully welded. Okay, I've welded both seams up. As you can see there, and I've dressed them up, and it's a pretty solid weld, and it has stayed at 90 degrees both sides. I did put a couple of welds on the inside, just as a belt and braces really, I suppose. So the next stage is to probably give this a coat of primer, U-Pol zinc primer, and then we need to weld it onto the chassis and make sure everything lines up. The centre line of the bolts is, with the car set up as it is 52.5 millimetres to the centre, or 53 to the top of the hole there. So that's what we're going to do next. Okay, so now it's just a matter of welding everything in place. I've measured up, and there's a black line there, so it's level that way, and that also puts the holes there at the correct height from the floor. So we're going to attempt just to tack it in place now. Right, so I think we can tack it in place in that position. Okay, so that is tacked in position, so I'll tack the bottom as well, and then we can carry on and weld the entire piece. Okay, so apart from a little finishing work and a coat of zinc primer on there, this job is pretty much done, and there's only one more part to fabricate and weld on, and that's the anti-roll bar. But a little bit more on that in a minute. So what I'll do is I'll take the camera off the stand and I'll show you a little bit closer. Now, the welding isn't the best, but it's solid. I had a few problems with the settings on the welder, and it seemed to fluctuate, especially when I tried to weld underneath. I've had that problem before. I'm not going to say it's not my fault, but the settings just seem to vary a little bit, and the gas feed doesn't seem constant. So anyway, that's an aside. So yeah, let's have a closer look at the job on the near side chassis rail. As you can see, I've welded that bracket on there, and that's nice and solid. I welded underneath as well. And the main job here is this bumper iron support bracket, and it's level with the other side, and I checked the height before I welded, and I checked afterwards, and these are at the right height as well. So as you can see, I've added a few extra little welds inside, if you can see that in there, if the light's good enough. Not a constant seam weld across it, but just a few tacks just to belt and braces, I suppose. But yeah, I don't think it's too bad a job, and this is really solid now, so I'm quite pleased with it. So I bought these washers, they are 3/8, and there's a spring washer there, but the original washer that was on, let me just get it for you and I'll show you what I mean. So as you can see, the original washers are quite substantial and they're quite thick affairs. So I think I'm going to order some thicker ones, just to be consistent. Okay, so what's coming up in the next video? Hopefully it's going to be about a week or so before I release this one. I'm going to try and make the videos once a week if I can. But anyway, the next video will be on the fabrication of the anti-roll bar mount on the near side chassis, and that will complete the work on the chassis that side. I've got some work, as I said, to do on the offside, but not to the extent as on the near side. But anyway, I mentioned earlier as well that would you like to see me just present the finished article and then weld it on, which I don't think is going to be much of a video, but would you like me to go over the fabrication process from where I've got to now? I've cut this out of 2.5mm steel. I've scored it to where the bends need to be, and I've cut through it where this piece here needs to bend over, and these two side pieces need to bend as well at 90 degrees. And then I need to chamfer or grind out parts there to make it as the original one was. And this has got some corrosion on it, which is why I cut it off in the first place. And I've also got 2 holes to drill into this bottom plate here, but that's slightly offset. So I need to line everything up properly, and perhaps even, I bought the anti-roll bar back from storage, and I've just repainted the mounts. So yeah, I'll go through the process of doing that in the next video. If those are the sort of videos that you'd like to see in the future, because I've got quite a bit of work to do on this P4 before it's ready for the road once again. So if you'd like more in-depth content on fabrication processes I need to go through to do the work, then please let me know. And please comment in the comment section as to whether you like this video and what you'd like to see coming up. Okay, now I've rambled on quite far enough. So thanks for watching this far if you've got this far. And I say, please like and subscribe. It really means a lot to the algorithms. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.